Welcome to the Red Shirt Podcast with your hosts, Vernon and Nigel. The Red Shirt Podcast, by Reds, for Reds.
Hello and welcome to this week's Red Shirt Podcast with Vernon and Nigel. Coming up on this week's episode, we will be reviewing United's fantastic start to the new season. A fantastic 5-1 win against Leeds. VAR will be discussing the changes and what it means for this coming season. We will be previewing United's away game at Southampton next Sunday. So, Nigel, how do you feel after Saturday?
Oh, he's at the wheel, isn't he? He's back at the wheel again. No seriousness. You know, it's a fresh new season. Fans are back in the stadium. There's a lot to be happy about.
So, Nigel, we need to introduce our guest on tonight's show, he's back for more. You must have loved it. He is the man, Lee. Lee Rogers. How you doing, my friend?
Absolutely pucker. And thank you for having me back. It's a real privilege. Thank you.
Well, I think the most important thing, Lee, and I think a lot of people who may have seen you on the previous podcast that you were on, which we thought you were absolutely fantastic on, is this fantastic collection behind you. Now, these shirts are pretty amazing, and I know that Nigel's got his eye on one. Which one have you got your eye on, Nigel?
I said this last time, it's got to be that white one. It's got to be the A on. Come on. That's the one there.
So, guys, Saturday came. We talked on the last pod about being nervous, and if the team was fit, and if they were ready. I'm going to start with you, Lee. Was you expecting the game and the result that we got on Saturday?
I text my best mate who was coming round to watch it. So I wasn't at the game live, but was coming round to watch it. And I went, we could be in trouble here. Right. And his response to me was to say, what, without Phillips? ? And I was like, I'd looked at it and I just thought the balance of the midfield didn't look that great. I couldn't really see Pogba on the left wing, for example. And I know he's not going to do a winger's job, and then within a minute or two, as I saw it, as they started kind of playing, I was like, I'm really comfortable. And when Ayling scored the Wonderbolt, I was still comfortable. And my best mate gave me loads at that point, by the way. And he's a Leeds fan, and he was sat a foot next to me. And then for the next 40 minutes, I gave him loads after that, which was just the best way to experience it for me. But, you know, on paper, no. But whoever came up with the masterstroke, and I know we'll go on to this, about Varane before the game and unveiling the shirt, with us being so used to digital and stuff, in the time that everyone was back together, that was an absolute masterstroke. Whoever decided that for me needs an absolute bonus, because that set the whole tone for the entire game. And Leeds are never going to be, in the way that Bielsa plays, a really tactician type team. They'll get after you, they'll be high volume. But in a way, I think that suits United.
United got it right, didn't they? Because just before kickoff, they introduced Varane. I think there was a lot of nervous people, you know, saying, why has he not been announced? Why has it not happened? Only United could do this, where they've guaranteed a player, you know, and we still haven't signed. And I think from what I was reading, United have decided to come away from these, you know, digital videos. Mm-hmm. And I think it set the tone, didn't it? Because what it did is the fans were creating a great atmosphere at the game anyway. But that was like the cherry on the top of the cake, wasn't it? When he came out, you know.
Oh, my days. What a moment. I mean, I totally agree 100% with Lee. It just, masterstroke. I mean, the hairs just stood up, didn't they, as he came out. And then I thought, when Rio was there, I did walk up and Rio was there to greet him and hug him. I was like, this is brilliant. Only at the theatre of dreams. Do something like this that just gets your whole enthusiasm, your whole emotion just racing. I mean, it was impossible At that point there, the game was already won. You know, we're going back to the Fortress United where the games are won before the players even come out on the pitch. I mean, if ever you could create a moment, which is like, it's impossible for us to lose, that was it. It was absolutely brilliant. And it makes you forget about last year. Already, I'm excited about what's coming this year. I thought to a man who played really well, apart from Dan James, I thought obviously he didn't really rise to the occasion himself. But I'm not going to be negative. I thought it was a great performance by the whole team. What did you think?
It was weird because obviously I was there. And when Varane came out, it very much reminded me of the season of 2006-2007 when we beat Fulham 5-1 and we went to it 5-1 on the opening day.
Mm-hmm.
And Sahar was up front and he just galvanized. You know, there was this pace of the team. And I was looking at United because I think we spoke before at the way that Leeds United play. So it's very much the all-man mark, the all-man mark player. And it's, you know, high volume. It's you know, it's in your face killer ball sort of football. But a lot of people don't realize that all he's done is his homework on it, and he realized that they more or less man mark. So once you beat a player and you're virtually on the back four. And I'm sat there and I'm watching this slick, aggressive, intelligent, free-flowing football. And I'm like, whoa, we turned the corner. And I think it was strange because you could see that Leeds, to a man, especially the back line, they were confused. You just, you know, because you're used to sort of like man marking, and all of a sudden they've had to come out of position. And it was like this high sort of energy game of killer ball. United had just totally mesmerized them. Now, I mean, the stats are that obviously, you know, Bruno Fernandes scored a hat-trick, the first guy since Lou Macari on the first day of the season in 77, and Pogba with his 4 assists. And you kind of like coming from the game just thinking, wow, this is amazing. And it's funny, isn't it, Lee? Because you look at Leeds and you're expecting this high energy game, and Ayling equalizes. And it's funny because we just go straight up the pitch with an unbelievable ball from Pogba, wasn't it, to Greenwood. And you're 2-1 up straight away, aren't you?
I'd tell you, he didn't necessarily get the credit, but I was massively impressed with Greenwood. I thought he broke the lines incredibly well. I thought he was mature in his performance, and he did a job that I would love to see him do permanently. I'd love to see him through the middle because I think he's that natural a player and can be the backup, if you like, or the person that goes in with Cavani. And now you've got Sancho, because you've got James, and James might not be the ultimate solution, but he's building all the time. I think we've got that raw talent in our squad right now. You know, Pogba, if we're brutally honest, that's the Pogba, that's the player we thought we were buying 4 years ago.
Correct.
Do that, not necessarily 4 assists, but to have that impact and influence on a game. It suited him at the weekend. What I want to see, whether he stays or whether he goes, is at that level of commitment and that level of influence throughout the season. Because if he does, then we can go and challenge. And I didn't think I'd be saying that. But if you get that type of world-class player that influences a game, that's really proud to wear the shirt and involved with other players of equal capability in terms of Fernandes, that's really exciting. You know, because I keep saying, oh, we need another midfielder. And actually, I'm going to challenge myself and then go, well, no, what we need to do is get the best out of Pogba.
With Pogba, I think United fans have just got to understand that if we get like the partnership right in the middle, you need to play him as close as possible to the opposition's goal, because he is the best passer of the ball at the club. I mean, we talk about the Greenwood pass, but look at the first goal for Fernandes. That ball was magic, wasn't it?
Oh, absolutely. The thing about Pogba, I mean, I kind of half agree with it, because I believe I like him in the middle of the park. Absolutely, just the orchestra, the conductor conducting everything. He needs that guy next to him to mop up after him. So that's where that CDM. I don't think Pogba is a CDM. I don't think he can never be a CDM.
No, he's not.
For the reasons you just mentioned. But if we get the right guy next. We don't need two of them. We don't need Matt Fred. Although to be fair to him, they played well. Well, that's one player
We've got
too
a little
many.
section. We've got a little section at the end of this section.
Okay. I'll hold back. I'll hold back. But the point is, leave Pogba in the middle of the park where he can truly conduct, and you're going to get 4+ assists every single game. And one thing I'm slightly worried about. It's not really a worry. It's just, was Saturday because everyone's fresh and everyone's excited by the crowd, or is there something really happening? Is there a change in the mentality that I've always talked about? What do you think?
Well, this is the point that I wanted to make, Lee. That in the last 2 seasons, United have started badly. The season before we'd won 2 in 9 games, and then last season we started off and we only won 2 in 6. We still finished in the top 4 and we came runners up last year. So I think, Lee, it's imperative this year that Ollie has this special start, isn't it? This strong start, because you look at the first 7 games, and we've discussed this before, Nigel, that really United should be challenging for top spot after the first 7 games, shouldn't they?
And look, talk is cheap, right? And we can talk about this all day long. It depends as the attitude changes. I don't think you can answer that, really. I think it's going to be in the weeks and months ahead where we go over a sustained period of time. Doing it in one game is great. Is that them performing at the best and a high ability? Not necessarily. But it does feel like Ollie's building. It definitely does feel like the culture of the club. I talked about this last time I was on. The behind the scenes stuff feels like it's taking care of itself. Sancho and Varane, 2 brilliant signings. I still think they've got to get rid of quite a bit of dead wood out of the squad, but I'm hearing a lot of teams talk about that. So it'll be interesting to see, it's not just a United issue anymore. It seems like there's a lot of teams that are struggling to do that. And for me, I think, do we overplay Fernandes this year? I don't think we can afford to do it. Because I think if you keep Fernandes fresh, and that's where I talk about Pogba or Fernandes being able to do it in a game. And I would love to see Donny van de Beek given time to really cement himself to be a creator. Because I saw it in Ajax. I've got no doubt in my mind that he's got the capability to do that role. I think they've got to get behind him, whether it was Ollie signing or not. And I know there's kind of talk whether that was the case. But I think he can be that progressive type of midfielder. Or if you're going to play a Pereira, and I'm not saying Pereira's the answer, but that kind of person that will take you and break lines. That's the type of player you need as a substitute for Fernandes to keep the whole thing fresh. Because it's not just even about the 11. The 11 are not going to win this league. Let's be really clear about that. And it's not for any team. It's going to be about the collective. And I think we've got strength in depth now.
Yeah. Nigel, Lee spoke well there about, obviously, the type of teams that we've got, the type of players that we got. And you think that Martial only came on for the last 20 minutes. Sancho only, came on for the last 20 minutes with Martial. Rashford's not there. He's not going to be a part of the team until October. And then obviously Cavani didn't even play. And that brings me to the fact of, wow, what an attacking formation when all of them are fit. And I think Lee talked about, obviously, Mason Greenwood. And I mean, if that's not a guy that doesn't base his game on the Brazilian Ronaldo, El Fenomeno, as he was called in Italy, this guy is precious, isn't he? I mean, that guy's a talent, isn't he, Nigel?
He's generational. I mean, I've heard that said before about him, and every time he plays, in fact, year on year, I mean, he was brilliant 2 years ago. And last year he consolidated, and it's like this year. I mean, just that first game, the way he took the defender out to set up Pogba, the shot that Pogba missed. I just thought that's like next level. So what he was doing as a 17 or 16-year-old, he's now got the confidence and maybe maturity to deliver that on the biggest stage of all. So I'm just drooling at what we're going to see from that guy this year. I don't think I'm putting any pressure on him, because Ollie said time and time again, he's the best finisher. He's just something special about this guy, and I believe all of the hype about him. And he just seemed, I just can't wait to see. But just before we move on, I really appreciated what Lee was saying, especially about some of the players that need to go as well, some of the deadwood. And I keep talking about mentality. I think something I wanted to add to I don't want to add to anything he said. I thought what he said was brilliant, but it just made me think about this whole mentality thing again. And I don't know if you heard, Vernon, about that Varane obviously wears the number 4 shirt.
Correct. Yeah.
When he came out parading the number 19. Shirt. And then I heard the story that Phil Jones refused to give up his shirt.
That's right.
Thinking, so I'm like, okay, I can understand Phil Jones has a bit of pride and maybe doesn't want to give up his shirt because of what the implications are. I get that. But where's Ollie in that moment? Where's Ollie saying, you know what, mate? Give your shirt up to this guy, because this guy's got so many trophies, it's unbelievable. This guy has proven at every single level that he can deliver. If he wants a number 4 shirt, guess what, Phil Jones? He's having a number 4 shirt. That's what I need Ollie to do. We need that ruthlessness from him all the way through down the coaching staff now. And the fact that Ollie's placating Phil Jones, why is he placating Phil Jones?
But going back to Saturday, we're going to talk about the 4 assists, and we're going to talk about the hat-trick of Fernandes. For you two guys, which was the goal that you just thought, wow? So Lee, out of all the 5 goals, which one gave you the most pleasure? Because I know Nigel's going to say to me, it's friends. So Lee, which gave you the most pleasure of all the goals where you just sat there and thought, we could be in for something different this year?
It was actually Greenwood's, right? And the reason for that is because he was so clinical. There was no hesitation, and it never looked like for a minute. As soon as the ball left the foot for the pass through, I said goal. Right? And I don't think I would have said that had it been Rashford, Martial, even Cavani, because he still had to do it at pace or whatever. It was such a brilliant finish. So if you would have had, a Kane or a Salah, you'd be going, that is phenomenal. The fact it's Greenwood, we go, oh yeah, he's a great finisher. But, and I know that Fernandes and Pogba rightly get the plaudits, but I'll go back to what I said before is he gave the defenders a nightmare all day long. And not for that, what they would have preferred was a big strong battle or whatever. He didn't give them that. He was smart. He was pulling them all over the place. And I think if we're going to unsettle teams, that's how we have to do it, really, because we're not going to. I don't think we're the strongest, most aggressive team in the world. I know you said we play with aggression. I didn't really see that. I thought we were just uber smart. I thought we kept the ball well. I thought we took risks, the right risks at the right time. But for me, I know that Fernandes can score goals, right? And he's got that much insurance behind him now that gives him the license to go. If we get Greenwood ticking at a rate that I think he can go, with the support of a Martial, a Rashford, or a Sancho, that to me will be the differentiator, rather than just go, we're solely reliant. So even if you look at a Spurs, they go Kane. But what do they have behind that? So the only other person then is Son. As an example, I'm not saying it's just comparing against Spurs, but we're going, actually, there's that much movement, there's that many options now in the forward line. Like Greenwood could play both ways. So when Martial came on, he went up top. I'm like, why not keep Greenwood there and put Martial on the left?
Come rain, come shine, you are behind this guy. So for you, it's got to be the 5th goal, hasn't it?
Yeah. Look, come on. In all honesty, it's actually Greenwood, but for slightly different reasons. I thought Greenwood, for the significance of that goal, because Leeds had just equalised, and even though the momentum was with us, that goal really did just. I mean, the place was already bouncing, but that goal, I've never heard a roar like it. When he scored that goal, the whole place literally exploded, and it was just we knew from that point onwards that Leeds were just dead. They were dead men walking. And this game is, you know, who knew what was going to happen next? So that's why it was just the timing of that goal. And obviously, it was just as Lee said, it was absolutely brilliant. But the time was good. But then, just when you think this guy can't do it, so he takes care of the midfield battle, keeps the lead midfield quiet, you know, mopping up like he always does and doesn't get the credit for. And he goes, oh, hang on a minute. If this game is an audition for who should be part of the United team going forward, let me just throw my hat in the ring. So I'm doing my job as per usual, taking all the stick that I get per usual. But do you know what I'm going to do this time? I'm going to show you that I can score as well. I'm not called Fred for no reason. I'm Brazilian for a reason. So here, what? I'm going to go and show you what I can do as well up front. That's my guy, Fred. Put some respect on his name, please.
Well,
You're just trying to get a shirt signed, aren't you?
yeah, exactly. Anyway, enough from the Fred Appreciation Society over there. I mean, it was a good goal because I go back to my man Greenwood. You look at his pass to Pogba, and it was just beautiful, wasn't it? It was just the way he did it. Hit on the turn. It went to Pogba. Pogba picks out the run, and Fred is there. Now, I want to talk about the third goal. For Bruno Fernandes's third goal, because I don't know if you guys noticed, or you've probably read over the last couple of weeks, that there's been some VAR changes introduced. I think they've reviewed the VAR rules and a lot of the decisions that they made last year. And last season, Bruno's third goal, which is hat-trick, would have been offside. Lee, watching the game, and not just United's game over the weekend, but all the other games, has common sense come back to the game by allowing that goal?
What's really easy is to say yes because it went our way this time. To me, thicker lines then goes a little bit subjective. So I'm kind of going, if you're offside, you're offside. We wanted that black and white element to it. And I'm a little bit confused that now we say, well, you're kind of offside or you're not. So, it's good for the game because you'll see more goals or more goals will be given. I get that. But once it goes against you, because you've had a year of, that would have been offside because technically he's, his toes keeping him on or whatever. And I'm not saying that was the best way to do it, but it'll be interesting to see it play out because I don't think we can make that call yet. It depends on how it's interpreted and how it's used through the season. Because I'll be honest, I watched it back on the replay instantly on telly because I was watching at home with a Leeds fan, which made it extra special. And he's going, well, that's offside. It's got to be given offside.
What I liked about, obviously, the VAR changes was, in some ways, the physicality of the game that they allowed to play on. It was a proper derby when it on, on Saturday. I think for me, Nigel, I think common sense comes in, and I understand Lee's point, but especially like last year when you saw goals chalked off for like Bamford against Crystal Palace when they said, yeah, but his arm was offside. When they get the lines out and you think, come on, he can't score with his arm, so how can he be offside?
The funny thing is, I think we had a year of everybody getting used to VAR, and so yes, it was frustrating, but I think everybody got with the program. So I imagine, even at the coaching level, they begin to think about where you've got to absolutely make sure you're onside. So you've really got to time your runs correctly. You've really got to be mindful of the fact that VAR's watching as well. Only for it now just to be, obviously it's like full swing, so it's back to the referees being in control again, and referees really kind of controlling the game, and VAR's not really going to contradict the referee like it did quite a few times last year. Obviously, referees had egg in their face. So, like Lee said, it has to play out. I think I kind of liked the fact that especially when it worked for us, where somebody scored against us, and then we go, well, hold on a minute, and then it seemed to work in our favour last year. I don't know if it was just a feeling or what have you, but I think we got quite a lot of our decisions go our way last year. I personally thought, so I was quite happy with VAR continuing the way it was. But yeah, let's see how it plays out, mate.
What I did enjoy this weekend was one that because the fans were back, and let's make no mistake, they made a massive difference to games.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at the game at Old Trafford and you look at Spurs game against City, they made a massive difference. But also the physicality that the referees are allowing, because last year it was almost like, well, I've just stepped on his verruca, so it's a foul. You know, it was getting to that.
It wasn't that. It was the players because they were screaming because they knew it
Correct,
would
and you
reverberate
could hear
around the
them clear.
stadium. They were like,
Yeah.
okay, well,
Yeah.
you can have a free kick then.
Yeah, exactly.
I tell you what, though, and I think a few people have called it out. Let's just take a moment to, first of all, absolutely say that the nonsense went on in Manchester City Centre between United and Leeds fans is not welcomed. You know,
No, totally agree.
You know, and equally, I heard there was some chants and stuff from the Leeds end about the 3 English players that were racially abused. You know, absolutely condemn that. It feels shocking, and I know there was other instances in the Premier League. So, whilst the fans coming back has been amazing, it's been brilliant, and I think it's the lifeblood of football, actually, or any sport, any spectator sport that's built on kind of that influence. Football feels back. We've still got a huge amount to do in terms of how we deal with society's issues. And I think we've got to do a better job than ever we've done before about how we continually have the conversation about things and not sideswipe it and not saying we're doing a wonderful job in all campaigns. I want to see us, we used to talk about Eastern European clubs that dealt with issues or didn't deal with issues. I want us to be the country that highlights those issues and deals with them. Broadly, widely, getting whole communities together to really get to the bedrock of things that, shouldn't be part of our game anymore. And I get really passionate about this because, I want to take my daughter to the football in the future, and it's kind of what sort of football match do I want to take her to? And I think we've got to be so progressive in this area as a collective, and we'll never eradicate it. I've got no bones about that. It's a society issue, but we've got to do everything we possibly can in order to show up for the brilliant game that it is.
I think you're right when you said it's a societal problem, and I think, I totally agree with you. So there's no but here. I'm just minded that football can only do so much because it's a societal problem. Sometimes we forget that. Sometimes we think, oh, why is it football doing more? And there is more football can do in football, but I do believe it's societal, it's education, it's kids at home with the parents, and it's kids, watching like the fallout from the game and the fans beating at, battering each other in the streets of Manchester and thinking that's great. And that's, we've got to find a way, because to be fair to football, they do ban them. As soon as they find them, they ban them, don't they? I think that's happening more and more over here. But it's honestly, it's football. I'm the first to criticise, but I do also have to recognise that football is trying, and I think especially as a black person in this country, I can see that they're trying, but there's a lot more.
But going on, and I just want to briefly talk about previewing United's up and coming game against Southampton, which I think's quite an interesting game, Nigel, isn't it? Because we've had this great start to the season. And the question I suppose I'm going to pose to you, Nigel, is do you think that Ollie will change the team or he'll stick with the starting 11?
Well, I don't know if you're aware, but United are playing. Were they playing today? Or was it yesterday? We had another game. And Sancho's played for the full 90 minutes.
Was it a practice game?
A practice game, yeah. And he's played the full 90 minutes. So that sounds like they're getting him ready as quickly as possible, aren't they? They're trying to get his fitness up. His fitness up. So I expect him to make changes. Obviously the tactics against Leeds worked a treat. So well done there. I'm the first to criticise them when it doesn't work. So kudos to Ollie and the coaching team for getting that right, especially the Dan James. Okay, he didn't probably execute what he was supposed to do correctly, but he certainly did create space. You know, he certainly created a problem for the Leeds defence. Like Ian said earlier, they didn't know where they were half the time. They were kind of pulled left, right, and centre, which created space for other players to exploit. And I think they'll have a game plan for Southampton as well. So I expect that there will be changes. And but I mean, obviously, they said the old adage comes to mind. Really, don't change a winning team. But you know, it's the modern game, and it's a different type of game. We do have a squad. It's a squad that's going to win us this league, or you know, if we're going to win it. So yeah, I expect there to be changes. Well, I'm sure they're going to introduce Varane as the main man, and I'm sure Sancho. You can't spend 75 million on a guy to have him warm on the bench. That's just nuts, isn't it? So.
Oh, he's got to bring Phil Jones back in as the main number 4, hasn't he? 1 to 11 when I was a kid.
Do you remember that? 1 to 11 and number 12 for being a substitute.
Aye.
So, all seriousness, I would keep it as it is. Actually, I'm not sure whether he will or not. I would keep it as it is for continuity. I've got no problem with keeping Sancho and even Varane hungry to really want the shirt, to earn the shirt in training, in the way they adapt. I'd prefer to see those players start their career like starting at Old Trafford, where they've got kind of the support behind them. You know, they're going to a South Coast. Do they? You know, is it going to be as warm and friendly? Probably not. That said, I think it's, you know, if you were tariffing the games, it's not one of the higher tariff games. You look at Vestergaard that Southampton have sold. They've sold Ings. I don't think Southampton are the side they were this. I don't think they'll be the team this season that they were last season even. So I think on paper, steady say on paper, but it's one of the lesser games to some regard. But I think it's even more important than the Leeds game. And I go back to my point earlier. It's not just about the one-off game. It's about how do you build the momentum. So I would keep the team the same, even with Dan James as opposed to Sancho, and I would start to try to just build that momentum.
Okay.
Yeah,
whoa! I've got to jump in. Sorry.
Go on.
Keeping Varane hungry. This guy has won everything there is to win in football. His interview was brilliant. His interview was all about, you know, he's a serious guy who wants a new challenge, and you know, his mentality is all about winning. Like Vernon said, 14 finals, 14 victories. This guy doesn't need to be kept hungry. He doesn't need to be managed. He's got the right mentality. We've bought mentality.
But what you need to do, though, is you need to keep the whole squad. Right, so what do you say to Lindelof then? If you go, you've had one of your best games of United shirt, and then you straight out. So personally,
that's what you say.
I would not change it. I would not change it. I'd keep it as it is. Go and get you 3 points at Southampton, and then look to change it.
I'd start the same 11 as last week, and I think Varane, I'd introduce him. You know, I'd introduce him. Maybe if United are winning, maybe 2 or 3, 2-0, say, then with 20 minutes to go, bring him in, get him used to the game. You know, because we've seen what happened. Do you remember with Vidic and Evra when they both started the game at like Main Road, and you know, we got beat in the derby, and the physicality and the pace of the game, they just couldn't get used to. Whereas I just think with like Sancho, because he's never played until he came on last week, he's never played in the Premier League. You know, he was at City as a youth team player and then went on to Dortmund. So I'd be reluctant. I'd stay with the same 11, and I'd say to the other guys, right, work your way into the team now, you know. And it'll be interesting because I think, you know, by mid-October, I think, you know, Varane will be a mainstay of the team. You know, after the next international break in September, actually, I should say, I think he will be. So it's good. I mean,
I guess if Ronaldo, if we sign Ronaldo and Messi, we'll put them on the bench as well, won't we? Because they've got to kind of feel their way into the English Premier League, and you know, let's just take our time with them. What are you guys talking about? We're talking about the guy that's won everything there is to win in football.
Yeah,
Whatever
but
you think.
you look at, say,
You've, got,
Thiago Silva.
you've bought mentality. You've not bought a project, an apprentice. You bought the real deal.
But you've
Yeah, but
also
the
got
real
to
deal-
What are
understand
you
the rest of
talking
the squad.
about?
Though. Nice. Easy, Tagger, right? But you still need to trust the guys that you bring in for when Varane's a mainstay, right? So you still need a Lindelof to be up, to be motivated, and all the rest of it. I think this is about the entire squad again, not just about is Varane the better player? Of course he is. Not mentioning that, not debating that one little bit. I'm saying keep Lindelof in there for another game. Let Varane increase his fitness because he's been stuck in hotels and quarantines and all the rest of it. He's done a medical that would have taken a bit out of him, and just easy, long old season.
Yeah,
Right, he's not going to play 60 odd games, Varane. You're going to need to chop and change it. So just keep it as it is. Have him on the bench, and then let the magic happen.
Anyway, going on to this game, this is United's first away game of the season. Now, last year we had a fantastic away record. We were unbeaten all season. How do you think it's going to go this year? Because, I mean, this is a potential banana skin straight away, isn't it?
See, I think if they keep the same team, so they've not been beat. They've not been beat, right? And Nigel already wants to change the team away. That's his opinion, and we respect that. Right?
I've actually got battered 3-1 last week, by the way. Just to throw that one in. We got battered by Everton 3-1. So
They did.
I think everything you both said earlier was absolutely correct in that the people that they've let go, they're probably a weaker team for it. So. We're talking about relegation fodder here, mate.
And that's why I'm comfortable to keep the squad that we had that beat Leeds, but we'll save Varane for the shiny days when we need him, and keep the team cohesion. Look, but Vern makes a good point. It is kind of one of those games that let's bar no bones about this. Anyone can beat anyone in the Premier League. So we could absolutely go and I'm not saying it will happen if you go and put Varane in, but who's to say that Varane and Sancho aren't up to speed just in terms of where they're at in terms of fitness or match fitness? You could quite easily have a day that doesn't go your way because it all depends on the players that have been there, that have been prepared. I've been listening to the debates this week about a load of teams haven't played players because they're not ready, and it's almost like the sports scientists are ruling who plays and who doesn't.
Yeah,
a little bit, particularly at the start of the season. And I think there's an element of truth in that. And that's why I think you don't have to rush a Varane or a Sancho right now, because you've got enough legs, you've got enough freshness around the squad that can go and do you a job away to Southampton. And I would like to see us win a comfortable 2 or 3-0 at the weekend. That's what I think will happen.
Yeah. I think I agree with you. Sorry, Vernon. That obviously, if you're not ready, you're not ready. You obviously you need to be ready. But there wasn't this issue when Bruno first turned up. He turned up straight in the team, contributing to United's success.
And I was there that day, and that was a completely different. Yeah, it's interesting because that was mid-season, and it was a different time because we needed someone. We needed a catalyst to get things going, and he was that catalyst. And it was a special day actually against Wolves because even though it was a 1-1 draw, he absolutely ran the show, and you could see it. And people got excited about it.
Yeah.
It was.
There's none of this. Oh, ease him in. Gotta get used to the British game. Dropped him in because you're Bruno with gazillion assists and gazillion goals, and look, he just did what he said on the tin he was going to do.
At home. In front of a full crowd at Old Trafford to support him along the way.
Yeah, and it's funny really because I don't know if any of you saw Bruno's tweet after his hat trick at the weekend, where he basically tweeted out to the world that he'd saved his best performance for when the fans were back. Now, I don't know if you guys noticed something, but one of the most amazing things that I noticed about the fans being back and about the goals being celebrated, I don't know if any of you's noticed, but there was nobody with a mobile phone taking pictures or filming the celebrations. They were just going wild, weren't they? There was this like outcry, of raw emotion. And that's where I come back to where I think this could be a difficult game, because you go back to the New Dell, as it's called now, there's going to be fans back. It's an enclosed pitch. The fans are very close, which can then influence the decisions of the referee. We obviously came back there last year because when we played there last year, this is where Cavani came on and scored 2 goals, didn't he? He came on, scored 2, and became a hero. And I think with them losing last week and then playing United this week, what more motivation do you need to get your fans on your side than to play Man United? The fans are back. It's a massive game for them, isn't it?
Well, if we're serious, you know, we've always talked, haven't we, about Ollie's got is out of excuses. It's no longer a project. He's no longer the apprentice. He's been backed by the board. He's got the players that he wants. He's had the time they needed with the squad. Come on, if we can't go to the Dell and get a result, then what are we saying? And I know you're not saying that, but come on.
I'm with you, and I think that's a difference in mentality. We talked about the first 7 games. That's where we need players that are absolutely ready to go and hit the ground running, not all in a few games. And if I've got no problem if Varane's ready, play him. I've no problem with that. If Sancho is ready to play and start, go and play him. I've got no, if you strengthen the squad and you're going to guarantee more points and then bring them off, great, because that's the better way to do it rather than do what I believe City did a little bit against Spurs is, we'll try and keep everyone happy and then we'll make changes. I always think you should do it the other way, where you play your best team and then you rest them up. That's why Pogba came off.
Yeah.
And that to me is the smart way to do it.
So, guys, that brings us to the time where I'm going to ask you, Lee and Nigel, for your predictions for Saturday. Now, Nigel, Sunday. It's actually Sunday, and it's a 2:00 kickoff. Nigel,
I'm confident of the 3-1 again. I said 3-1 for last week, actually.
Yeah. Okay.
Even though actually I felt I felt that we're good for more. I actually thought 4-1, but then I hesitated. I said 3-1. So I'm saying 3-1 again. I think the momentum will take us over the line there again. I'm Fred's going to score another one. You watch.
Well, I think we'll win by 2 goals. I was going to say 3-1, but I'm not going to copy Nice because I'll go the same as him. I'll go 2-0.
Okay, 2-0. That's good. It's funny that. So I'm going to go. I'm just gonna go for a 1-0. I'm gonna go for a 1-0. Do you know what I mean? I'm try and be a bit conservative with the team. I'll go for a 1-0.
Is that a comfortable 1-0 or a hard fought 1-0?
I think it's going to be uncomfortable at times. Actually, I think it could be an uncomfortable first half an hour, and then we'll sort of like play our way where we'll play ourselves back into the game. So, guys, that brings us to an end of another Red Shirt podcast with Vernon and Nigel. Got to say a big thank you for Mr. Lee Rogers, bigging him up there. Do you know what I mean? And I think another great contribution. And I've got to say, sometimes I just love sitting back and listen to you two debate. I think that's the great thing about being, actually hosting a lot of the time. I can just sit down and listen to you guys debate. And I'll tell you, you two do like a debate together.
Is it?
So, Nigel, it's that time where we say, love football, love life, and
keep that red flag flying. It feels different this year, fellas. It feels different.
The Red Shirt Podcast, by Reds, for Reds. Don't forget to like, follow and subscribe to the Red Shirt Podcast.